Coyerts. Welcome to Historyscapes. I was reading the other day, yet again, another conversation online about why the American Civil War was so much more deadlier than earlier wars in American history. And of course, everybody gets to talking about the mini ball with the rifled muskets and the further range and how the tactics didn't change quick enough, and all that certainly has its point in that kind of a discussion, but I think history is more complicated than that. I think there's a lot of small things that went into making the weapons far more deadly than in earlier conflicts, and we'll take a look at one of those small changes, not counting the rifled muskets and the mini balls, and that would be the alteration from flintlock to percussion. Of course, from about 1500 on, the flintlock was the standard military weapon. Just like its name implies, it's got a piece of flint. That flint strikes the steel. In here there would be a little priming powder and poof. So when it's on full cock and it fires, it makes a spark and the gun goes off. Now this was a big advantage over the matchlock, of course, because you didn't have a burning match everywhere. Still had some problems. For example, you had one shot in the rain, and that's if you loaded in a dry place. Once that one shot went off, it was very difficult to load reliably in a rainstorm. The other problem was you're still dealing with that loose powder concept. Some soldiers would get their cartridges and they might dump a bunch of powder in, and then there'd be less powder in the main charge, or they'd only use a little bit and have a less reliable ignition. But in 1805, a Scottish pastor invented a new ignition system. Alexander Forsyth was an avid duck hunter, and he noticed that with his flintlock shotgun, every time he would shoot, that initial flash would give the ducks enough time sometimes to just get out of his line of sight. He wanted a better ignition system, and he invented the percussion system, which used a little bit of filament that when it was struck hard, it would produce a spark. And in 1807 he patented it, but the militaries around the world were slow to change. Militaries are always slow to change. The percussion system did finally in the 1840s start to be adopted by every military in the world, including the United States military. So by the time of the American Civil War, the percussion system was the standard. With the percussion system, it's quite simple. You put the gun on half cock, you put a small copper percussion cap that has that filament in there, and now it's on there, and when you cock the gun, put it on full cock and pull the trigger, that slap makes the cap go off just like on a toy cap gun, and that sets off your main powder charge. Everything's still loaded down the barrel, just like with the flintlock musket, but this has some real advantages, and one of those real advantages is that this can be fired and reloaded multiple times in the rain. There were 32,000 casualties at Spotsylvania Courthouse in 1864 in a battle that was fought in the rain. This type of huge battle would be less likely to produce those kind of casualties in earlier times with the flintlock, because the soldiers would not be able to shoot at each other to that extent. So I think history is far more complicated than any one single reason. I think that there were a lot of technological changes. I think between the Industrial Revolution being in full swing, so guns in themselves were being able to be produced by far greater numbers. The quality of the weapons were better. The technological changes from flint to percussion and then from percussion to cartridge were taking effect during that time. I don't think it came down to just one major change, such as the rifled bore and the mini ball. These did have an effect, of course, but I don't think it was one simple answer. So thanks for listening, and be sure to catch us at our website, www.historyscapes.com, and I appreciate you listening. Thank you.